The UFC 306 card is shaping up to be a little bit of a flop, to put it lightly. Dana White is claiming that it's going to be the greatest sporting event in history. He literally said these exact words in an interview, and we're going to watch the interview and react to it because Dana White, there's a lot of delusion coming out of his mouth recently about Shaun Jones, about this UFC 306 event, to the point where I feel like this is becoming the Dana White channel. But I don't mind, because I'm trying to make more MMA-based content. And a fun fact for you, last month was actually the most MMA content we've ever put out on this channel. And it was a good month, so I appreciate everyone who's been tuning in to the MMA content. So, UFC 306, Sean O'Malley versus Merab Dvalishvili, I can never say a second name, is going to be taking place in the Las Vegas Mega Sphere. And if you take a look at it, it does look pretty insane here. So the octagon is going to be right down here in the middle. This right here is a huge screen, and I assume that they're going to project the fight onto this big mega screen here. So it probably will look pretty insane. And I think, you know, going to this card could be a crazy experience. However, there are a few red flags popping up about this event that is making me a little bit uncertain on how good this event is going to be. And some people reckon that it's going to be a massive flop, and we'll dive into why in a second. First off, we need to take a look at this Dana White interview to see how Dana has been marketing this Sphere event. Now, granted, this was a good few months ago, and like in any business, I'm sure Dana has encountered many problems doing this Sphere event, and apparently just to hold this event, it costs a lot of money.
Months ago that you'd already spent $17 million. Is that figure still accurate, or has it escalated?
We're at 20 now.
And how much is it per test run? Because I heard somebody in the UFC say it was $1 million every time to do a test run. Is that accurate?
This is an expensive show. This is an expensive show. And we have to move in there because they have other things going on. And when we go in there and rehearse, we're in there like from 1 in the morning till 7 in the morning rehearsing. So this is a beast. And I'm way more focused on all that stuff than all this other MGM or what they're doing or who's fighting that night. And that is what it is, you know, and we'll figure all that out after this event.
So once again, absolute mega event. Already 20 million invested into this Sphere card, and it costs $1 million every time they just want to do a test run. Right, that's pretty insane. Now let's listen to what Dana White says on this podcast about the Sphere event.
The Sphere is the star of the show. It's well worth going. Anybody who comes in town, you have to go to the Sphere. I haven't seen the movie yet.
Yeah,
check that out. But
it's the closest to virtual reality I've ever, like, you feel like you are literally somewhere else. It's
awesome.
Incredible.
It's awesome. It really is awesome. That's why I went and saw the U2 show. And like I said, they're using this much of the capabilities. I'm going to use this much.
Okay, so right there, Dana said they're using this much of the capabilities. I'm going to use this much.
I'm going to put on the greatest live sporting event anybody has ever seen.
The greatest live sporting event that anyone has ever seen.
And what happened was after they did the show and people started looking at it, they're like, this is cool for concerts, but you can't do live events here.
So when you say you'll unlock more of the capabilities, what in what terms?
All right, so you're sitting here, right? And you're watching the show, and you're watching the show in English.
Yes.
He's sitting in that seat. He can watch it in Spanish, French. The speakers are aimed directly at the seats. There's so many things that you can do.
I mean, okay, that's great for the fans and the non-English speaking fans. But what about us at home? Especially us here in the UK, who are staying up till 7 a.m. just to watch this, in all honesty, piss-poor fight card, which we'll jump into in a minute. But you can have all these little extra amenities and all these little extra features like, oh, he can listen in Spanish, he can listen in French. But if the fight card is crap, it's not going to be the best sporting event of all time. The best sporting event of all time is going to be the one with the most stacked card, with the storylines and the beefs between fighters and an epic build-up and then drama at the show and then post-fight fights. And that's what's going to be the best sporting event. Not just because him there on the left can listen to the show in a different language. Of course, there's going to be a lot more features. I'm just saying, if that's the first thing that Dana White jumps to, it's not really giving me the confidence and the faith that this is going to live up to the hype.
The rumble pack in the seats where like you get a grappling session. They got the rumble pack.
Hey, hold on.
Oh, they've got a rumble pack in the seats. So yeah, apparently what they can do is they can make the seats vibrate. So maybe every time someone gets a knockout, they'll make the seats vibrate. Hopefully you're not drinking your pint as that happens. You'll be like, oh, this Sean O'Malley fighter's good. Oh, spill it all over your face. I mean, yeah, I guess that's okay. Someone gets a takedown, lands on the canvas. The ultimate 4D experience. Once again, take it or leave it. I guess it might be fun. But wait until you see the ticket prices, which we'll show you in a minute.
So we're going in there during Mexican Independence Day, and I'm going to put on the greatest live event anybody's ever seen, and it's going to be this huge love letter to all of combat and combat sports throughout the history of Mexico. Some of the baddest dudes that have ever walked the face of this earth have been Mexican. And on Mexican Independence Day, I'm going to deliver the craziest show anybody's ever seen.
So Dana said that this entire event is going to be one big love letter to the Mexican fight community, because some of the biggest, bestest badasses in the fighting world have been Mexican. Okay, so that means we're going to have montages, we're going to have big cinematic things on the screen dedicated to Canelo. Speaking of which, Canelo was fighting that same weekend, I think in Vegas. So you're already competing with Canelo, the actual Mexican, like a big superstar Mexican, in the same location on the same night. That's another thing that's just making me a little bit dubious about how successful this event is going to be, and it might even be a flop. I also want you to take note about the fact that Dana keeps saying, we're going in during Mexican Independence Day, Mexican, tribute to Mexicans, Mexico, 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 all that. Well, first off, why is it in Vegas? Why not just put on a card in Mexico? It feels almost like Dana has just put this event on in Vegas and just said, oh, it's Mexican Independence Day. Yeah, we'll get a few Mexican fighters on our card. Wait until you see what fighters are on there. It's crap.
And okay, so I'm going to tell you this too.
A Mexican fighter in every fight? Is that what that means? Is that
Yeah, well, there'll be tons of great Mexican fighters on there, but not everybody will be Mexican.
Tons of Mexican fighters on there, but not everyone will be Mexican. So let's take a look at the card right now. Here we have the main cards. Non-Mexicans for the main event. Okay, pretty strange. Alexa Grasso, Mexican. Okay. Brian Ortega, he's Mexican, but he's American. Diego Lopez, Brazilian, right? Could be Mexican. Somewhat looks Mexican. He's definitely got that, what's that word? Omniracial? Biracial? Racial ambiguity. That's the word I'm looking for. Racial ambiguity, where you kind of look like you could be multiple different races. So he's kind of like a pretend Mexican. I love Diego Lopez, by the way. He's an absolute boss fighter. I'm looking forward to seeing this fight. This is a rematch. So bring on that fight. I'm loving it. We got Ryan Garcia. I mean, not Ryan Garcia. Daniel Zellhuber. Who the hell's Daniel Zellhuber when he's at home in lightweight division? Esteban Robovics from Argentina. Who are these guys? Okay, I've seen Esteban before. Lightweight bout. You see that they're already clutching the straws for Mexican fighters. Where's Yair Rodriguez? He's the biggest Mexican draw right now. Who else we got? Ronaldo Rodriguez. All right, okay, he's got the same second name. Once again from Mexico. And then we got Irene Aldana. I don't know. We got Manuel Torres, you know what I mean? Yasmin, who are they? Don't know these. Edgar Charillas. And don't forget, I'm not like a pure hardcore. I am right in between a high-level casual and a low-level expert. I'm right in that middle sector. I'm also just a fan, like a big fan who's got a channel around fighting, and I love documenting my journey as a fan of martial arts and the UFC and MMA in general here on this channel. And then we've got Raul Rosas Jr., the guy who looks like a bulldog chewing a wasp. So you've got a bunch of Mexican fighters on here who the majority of them aren't even ranked. In fact, I don't think any of the Mexican fighters are ranked apart from the Birds. The main event doesn't include any Mexican fighters. The co-main event is a Mexican fighter in Alexa Grasso, but the female fights don't pull in any numbers. No one cares about the female fights, Mexican or not. So here are the top pound-for-pound Mexican UFC fighters. We got Yair Rodriguez. He needed to be on this card. We got Brandon Moreno. He probably should have been on this card. Who else? Guys, I think that might be it. That's it. Wow. No one else.
What we're going to pull off there will never be done again. Nobody's going to be willing to spend the money that
That's what I'm saying. How much do you...
I'm not playing around with this. I am going in here guns a-blazing, and I'm going to blow everybody's mind with this.
Right, now, Dana came back on the show and he gave a few more updates about the Sphere event.
The Sphere has been an absolute beast. My production team is 24/7 on this thing. I love the Mexican culture and the Mexican people. They're all hard workers, how they support each other. And this is basically, like I said, a love letter to the Mexican people and their culture. And the challenge of this thing is we're the first sporting event inside the Sphere. and we're the first ones that are actually you're gonna be able to watch live from the Sphere. So there's a lot of different challenges as far as production goes. But what we really want to do is the people that are watching at home on pay-per-view, we want to give you that experience like you're there inside the Sphere.
Because the Sphere is the show. We're excited to see what you put behind the fights and how you kind of set it all up. Are those decisions, I assume, already made or no?
Oh, no. If those decisions weren't made, we'd be in big trouble right now.
Okay.
So, when the show starts, we're going to have the prelims, and then we're going to tell throughout the rest of the night the history of combat in Mexico. From the beginning of time and into the future. So the first fight of the night will start at the beginning of time. The main event will be the future of Mexico.
That's what you meant by love letter, and that's why whenever it was announced how many fights there were, some people are like, there's only this amount of fights. Well, that's because we're telling the story, and then I assume the fights are going to match just,
Love it.
Oh!
So that's all he really says about the event. Basically, he's going to tell a story of the history of Mexican fighting. He says he wants to give the viewers at home the same experience that the people who attending the Sphere are getting. Well, I should hope so, because I took a look at the tickets and oh my days, this is crazy. So for pretty much 90% of the tickets, you're looking at over $1,000, $1,200. If you want to be in the center, $2,900. This is insane. Even if we take a look at the tickets right here, $3,000. Down here, it's $4,600 for the ticket. That is crazy. And it makes me think, are we going to see loads of empty seats? Because we're only 2 weeks away from this event, and there's still a lot of empty seats. And also, I don't know if you guys know how Ticketmaster works and how a lot of live sporting events and even music events work, is the company themselves, so the UFC, is they actually buy up a large majority of their own tickets to make it look like loads of the tickets are being bought. And what that does is it makes the remaining tickets more scarce and therefore drives up the price. And then as they get closer to the event, the company, the organization, will then redistribute the tickets for either a discounted price or a higher price, depending on how many tickets have been sold and what the demand has been like for the tickets that they left up on Ticketmaster. This is how it works, even for your favorite artists, Beyonce, Taylor Swift, they all do it. They buy up their own tickets, and then they can also write loads of it off as a tax expense because it's for marketing purposes. Oh, there's loads of shady stuff that goes on with this type of stuff. So it makes me think, with how many seats that are left over and we're only 2 weeks out, it might not be a sold out show. And then especially when you just look at who's fighting, no one notable is fighting. If we take a look at UFC 307, we've got Alex Pereira and Khalil Roundtree the month after, and this card is far more stacked than UFC 306. And when you listen to the way Dana's speaking, he's saying the Sphere is the event, the Sphere is the attraction. So he's kind of threw together this little quick, crappy fight card in hope that people will come for the Sphere as the attraction. So there's no point wasting really good fights like the fights that are on UFC 307 on the Sphere card. It's kind of similar the way he does it with McGregor. The next McGregor card that Dana puts on, which if McGregor even comes back, I guarantee the rest of the card will be pretty crap because he knows he'll get a lot of money from one power play. The leverage is disproportionate. That power play being McGregor. The power play here for the Sphere event is the Sphere. The power play for UFC 307 is Alex Pereira. You don't need 10 different power plays. You only need one. You don't want to use up all your tools in the toolbox for one event. So then you get to the next event the month after and you've got no more tools left. Am I making sense from a business perspective? I get it. But I just think this card, $4,000 a ticket, $3,000 a ticket for the high up seats. That's pretty expensive, especially when you compare it to the prices of UFC 307. So this is the Alex Pereira card. We've got $3,000, $1,000, but they're for the seats that are close to the cage. And then all the rest are like $250, $400, some are $700. You're talking half or even a third of the price for a better UFC fight card a month later. So if you was going to see a fight card, would you rather go and see UFC 306 with this crappy lackluster fight card in the Sphere because, oh, Dana White's putting on a big Mexican Independence Day history of Mexican fighting on the big screen, or UFC 307 with absolute banger fights? Stephen Thompson, Jose Aldo, Roman Dolidze, Kevin Holland, Movsar Evloev, I can't say his second name, Aljamain Sterling. This is an absolute banger of a fight card, and obviously we've got Alex Pereira and Khalil Roundtree in the main event. I think this Sphere event might be a bit of a flop. Dana's 20 million in the hole just getting this Sphere event set up. I think really he should have put a few more interesting fights on the card and binned off this whole Mexican Independence Day thing because I don't think it's drawing any interest. People don't care about that. People just want good fights. People don't care about watching an unranked, unknown fighter who's Mexican on Mexican Independence Day. What do you guys think? Do you think this event is going to flop or not? Obviously, Dana White, he's the genius behind all of this. He knows what he's doing. Of course, it's going to make a profit for him, but it just doesn't really make sense. Why make the card so crap and put so much focus on the Sphere? Comment your thoughts down below, let me know, and make sure you subscribe for daily fight videos. I also launched my fitness channel last week, and I'm going to be uploading my first video to that channel, most likely this Wednesday, so subscribe to that if you want fitness content. Nice one, see you tomorrow.